talk on this topic of lament. Now, you might be wondering how I landed on this topic for this series, so allow me to explain for just a brief moment. This past week, my oldest son forwarded me an article containing some difficult news centering on the nation's largest non-Catholic denomination. Honestly, it made me sick to my stomach. The description of fellow Christians and leaders at that, entrusted with the gospel, leveling at one another accusations of abuse, immorality, and deception on the stage of national publications. It was heartbreaking. Now add to that the reality of thousands of innocent children today suffering on our southern border, the loss of life in our cities as violence just continues to escalate, and thousands of unborn babies still being killed every day, and men and women, moms and dads being left to struggle in the aftermath. And the grief can become stifling. So you might ask me, well, why think about those things? Why dwell on them? And that's a great question. Psalm 102 might actually carry an answer for us. Psalm 102 carries this subtitle. It reads like this: a prayer of an afflicted man when he is faint and pours out his lament before the Lord. And notice, an afflicted man. It might be the description of me and you at times in our lives, and especially as we dwell on any of the realities in our world. His prayer in the opening of this psalm goes like this: Lord, hear my prayer. Listen to my plea. Don't turn away from me in my time of distress. Bend down to listen and answer me quickly when I call to you. Notice the urgency apparent in this man's prayer of lament. The plea that he issues for relief, for attention from God. Notice how his grief has a way of bringing this urgency, this behavior, this desperation to the surface of his life. There's almost a sense of desperation present in him as he mourns and calls out to God for help. But what is his goal? The end game of embracing such negative emotion? Well, he makes it very clear as he continues in his prayer. He writes, "The Lord looked down from his sanctuary on high. From heaven he viewed the earth to hear the groans of the prisoners and release those condemned to death. So the name of the Lord will be declared in Zion and his praise in Jerusalem when the peoples and the kingdoms assemble to worship the Lord." Now, to think that lamenting or grieving loss through prayer, lamenting or grieving the condition of anyone's suffering could result in deliverance, healing, and restoration, well, that's just unimaginable. But that's exactly what the Lord is inviting us to imagine. Just imagine addictions being overcome, diseases being healed, sins being forgiven, marriages being restored, families being reunited as we lament the brokenness. And if God is in some way moved to do such things by prayer, and prayer is in some way motivated by our grief, by our lament, imagine how we would rejoice if only we could learn to lament. Hang on to that thought over the weekend, my friends, and I'll meet you right back here next week to look at how lament opens the door to greater hope and faith in my life and yours. Until then, don't be afraid to pour out your hearts before the Lord. He loves it when his children call on his name. And I love you, my friends. Hope to see you soon.